All right, let's dive in. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a secret language that, believe it or not, powers everything from your favorite streaming service all the way to rovers on Mars. It's called Python, and right now, we're going to go from zero to understanding the core ideas that make it one of the most important tools in the entire modern world. Let's do this.
So let me start with a question for you. Think about the apps on your phone, the websites you visit, even the AI you might interact with every single day. What do they all have in common? Well, there's this kind of invisible thread connecting so many of these modern marvels, and the answer is something you've probably heard of, but maybe never really seen up close.
That thread is Python. Yeah, it's the hidden engine running huge parts of our digital world. We're talking everything from Netflix's recommendation algorithm to the software that's literally guiding rovers on another planet. It is everywhere, and today we're going to see exactly how it works.
So, what is Python, really? At its core, it's just a way to give instructions to a computer. That term high level you see on the slide, it just means it's designed to be easily read by humans, not just machines. And that focus on simplicity, on readability, that is Python's absolute superpower. It's what makes it the perfect language to start your coding journey. You know, every great journey begins with a single step. And in the world of programming, that first step is this huge tradition. It's like a rite of passage that connects you to millions of developers who came before you. It is time to say hello to the world.
And this is it. This is your very first line of Python code. It might look simple, and it is. All we're doing here is telling the computer to display the words, "Hello world" on the screen. Let's break down exactly how this one little command works, because it introduces a really fundamental concept.
Okay, so that print part is what we call a function. The easiest way to think about a function is as a built-in command, like a shortcut. In this case, the print function has one job and one job only. Take whatever you stick inside those parentheses and show it on the screen. Simple, right?
Now, programs wouldn't be very useful if they couldn't, remember information. And for that, we use variables. The concept is super simple, just like it says here. A variable is basically just a labeled box in the computer's memory where you can store some data. You give the box a name, you put something inside, and then you can use it later.
And just like you wouldn't store soup in a shoebox, Python needs to know what kind of data it's storing. As you can see in this table, the main types are integers for whole numbers, floats for decimal numbers, strings for any kind of text, and booleans, which are just a simple true or false. This just helps the computer handle everything correctly.
Okay, storing data is great, but the real power comes when you start doing stuff with that data. Your program isn't just a storage locker, it's also a crazy powerful calculator and a logical decision maker. And this is where things get really interesting.
To do all that, we use operators. You'll recognize a lot of them from math class, like the plus sign for addition. We also have comparison operators like greater than. Now, the one to watch out for is the double equals sign. A single equals sign puts a value in a variable box, but the double equals, like you see here, asks a question. Hey, are these two things exactly the same?
So far, our program is kind of dumb. It just runs from the first line to the last, executing every single thing. But what if we want it to be smarter? What if we want it to react differently in different situations? Well, now we get to give our program a brain. We teach it how to make decisions.
We do that with something called a conditional statement, which acts like a fork in the road for your code. Just look at this diagram. The program gets to a decision point. If a certain condition is true, if it's a yes, it goes down one path. If that condition is false, a no, it's sent down a completely different path. This is how a program actually starts making choices. Okay, let's think about another problem. What if you need your program to do the exact same thing over and over and over again? Like, say, print out the numbers 1 through 5. Are you really going to write print 1, then print 2, and so on? I mean, that sounds incredibly tedious, right?
Of course not. No way. The elegant, smart solution is something called a for loop. This little piece of code you see right here does the entire job. It basically tells Python, hey, for every number in the range from 1 up to 6, just print that number. It does the whole task in just 2 lines. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
So let's look a little closer at what's actually happening here. The loop starts by creating a temporary variable, we usually call it I, and sets it to the first number, which is 1. It runs the code inside, in this case, printing that number. Then it automatically updates I to the next number, 2, and does it all over again, all the way to the end. It is automation in its purest form.
Okay, so far we've only really dealt with one piece of data at a time. But as your programs start to get bigger and more complex, you're going to need better ways to organize all that information. And this is where data structures come into play.
Two of the most common are lists and tuples, and they're very similar. They both just hold an ordered collection of items. But there's one huge difference. A list is mutable, which is a fancy way of saying you can change it, like adding a new item to your shopping list. A tuple, on the other hand, is immutable. Once you create it, it's set in stone, kind of like the coordinates for a point on a map.
And then we have my personal favorite, dictionaries. Instead of just a list of items, a dictionary stores pairs of information, a key, like the word name, and its value, like Ali. It works just like a real dictionary, where you look up a word, the key, to find its definition, the value. It's an incredibly powerful way to store related data.
Hey, remember that print function from the very beginning? Well, it turns out you can create your own functions. And let me tell you, this is a total game changer for keeping your code organized. Think of it like a recipe. You write down the steps for making a cake one time, and then you can reuse that recipe anytime you want a cake without having to rewrite the whole thing from scratch.
And here's what that looks like. You use the keyword def, which is just short for define, to create your function. You give it a name, here it's greet, and then you list the instructions inside. So now, anytime we need our program to say hello, we can just call our greet function. That's it.
Okay, so here is where Python's true power just explodes. You don't have to write everything from scratch. The Python community has created literally hundreds of thousands of pre-built libraries, which are really just massive collections of functions that you can just plug into your code to do almost anything you can possibly imagine.
So what can you actually do with all those libraries? Well, this brings us full circle, right back to our first question. As this chart shows, Python is a dominant force in countless fields. You can build websites, you can do incredibly complex data science, you can create artificial intelligence models, or you could just automate the boring stuff in your own life. The possibilities are massive.
So let's just do a quick recap. Why Python? Why is it so popular? Well, because its syntax is simple and clean. Because your code can run pretty much anywhere. Because of that massive ecosystem of libraries we just talked about. And this one's a big one, because there's a huge supportive community of people out there ready to help you learn and grow.